According to an article on robreport.com, Rolex will be releasing its first watches of 2020 this September through announcements on their website. Now, it has been tradition. Many brands, Rolex amongst them, would normally unveil their product releases annually at the BaselWorld Watch Fair. However, BaselWorld was postponed, then it was later canceled entirely. Brands like Rolex and Patek reported that they would delay their 2020 releases indefinitely. This left many people speculating that new product launches would be held back until 2021 at the earliest. Well, apparently, the script has been flipped, and we can expect to see at least some new releases announced in a couple of months from now. What's up, YouTube? I'm Guy, and this is the JustBlueFish Watch Reviews channel. Today, we are going to talk about the report confirming that Rolex plans to announce new watch models sometime in September of 2020. Questions like what can we expect from them this year are obviously on our minds. Will it be their entire planned lineup or just a handful of new releases with more to come later in the year, perhaps into next year? And obviously, we have to ask, when will the new watches actually be available to buy? Honestly, I think that this announcement brings up more questions than it does answers, but it will no doubt give fans of the brand something to be excited about and a date on the calendar to look forward to. Now, before we get into it, let's do a quick wristwatch check. Today, I am wearing my Omega Speedmaster. Like I had mentioned in a previous video, I think I'm going to have to sell this watch. So I thought it would be a good idea to get a bit more wrist time with it before I list it for sale, probably sometime in the next couple of weeks. Unfortunately, because of the state of the pandemic here in Florida, my wife's work just decided to furlough the majority of its staff this past week, and this watch is probably going to be the first one to go if money starts getting tight. Like I had mentioned before, if you think you might be interested in buying it, feel free to shoot me, a quick email and we can discuss it. My contact info is down in the description of this video. Now, with that said, let's talk Rolex. So if you weren't aware, as previously mentioned, the annual watch fair BaselWorld was planned for the first week of May of this year. But due to the pandemic, it was postponed and then rescheduled for January 28th, 2021. Several weeks after rescheduling the show, though, several brands, including Rolex, said that they would be leaving the show entirely, and the BaselWorld show organizers were left with no choice but to cancel the newly scheduled show entirely. Whether that means the BaselWorld is done for good and will become a thing of the past, well, that remains to be seen. But I'm not aware of any plans as of yet to reschedule it with a new date. Now, regarding the announcement that Rolex is going to release some new models in September, something that I find interesting is that there was a report back in April that Rolex, Tudor, Patek, Chopard, and some others would join with the former SIAH Watches and Wonders watch fair organizers, and they'd have a new expo, which was actually set to take place in April of 2021. Now, is this still happening? And if so, should we expect these brands to put out all of their new releases now, or will they be holding back models for that new event? Now, whether or not there will be any watch shows next year, what we do know is that Rolex will be releasing some new watches this year. And that's something that a lot of people didn't think was going to happen. So what do we think that Rolex will have up its sleeve come September? The big question, will it be a new Submariner model, which is probably the most anticipated watch that collectors and fans are waiting for? So here's the thing about that. I don't know why they would put out a new Submariner model in 2020, but I also can't think of anything else that they would unveil, at least anything else that really packs a punch and would get people to take notice. I don't know why they would, because 2020 isn't any sort of anniversary year for the Submariner. Of course, it was released in 1953, so the 65th anniversary would have been back in 2018, or the 70th would be in 2023, and those would both have made more sense. The current models have also not been in production for an unprecedented period of time. For example, the 16610, the pre-ceramic Submariner, was in production from 1987 through 2010, so that model survived for 23 years. The ceramic sub date that we currently have was released in 2010, and the no date sub came out in 2012, so they're only 8 to 10 years old, respectively. The current models also, they still sell really well, so much so that it's rare for you to even walk into a dealer and purchase one without some sort of extended wait time. I guess I just don't see a great deal of motivation to release a new model yet, with one exception. I think it's possible that we see an identical model to the current Submariner released with the new 3200 series movement, but in an otherwise unchanged design. Not only do I think that it's possible, I think it's probably likely. However, I don't think that that's the new watch that people are waiting for. The watch people want is one with a redesigned case, and I don't think we're going to see that until probably 2028, which would mark the model's 75th anniversary. Oh, and I think that we could also expect to see a price increase on the Submariner as well if it does come out with a new model and gets that updated movement. So aside from some sort of new Rolex Submariner, what else could we expect to see released this September? Well, the second most anticipated watch, and maybe it's the most anticipated depending on who you ask, would be a Coke GMT Master 2. I think that's possible, but I'd expect it to come out in a precious metal like white gold. The Pepsi was the exclusive precious metal GMT Master for a number of years, and since it's now available in steel, I could see Rolex making the Coke that flagship exclusive model for a while. That said, people are hoping to see the Coke in stainless steel, and I think those people will be disappointed if one comes out at all. Now, my personal hope is that they put out a new version of the Rolex Explorer. This is a watch that I both love, and it's a watch that I hate. It's one that I owned for a while and ultimately sold because I could never totally get along with it. But if they brought it back in a more reduced size variation, I think I'd probably own one again. That said, I can hope all day long. I think there's next to no chance that we will be seeing a smaller Rolex Explorer this year or anytime in the near future, unfortunately. I think we can count on some new Datejust dials, perhaps the retirement of others. That's kind of a normal situation to happen from year to year, so I wouldn't be surprised by that one bit. The same possibility exists for things like the Oyster Perpetual, the Day-Date, maybe even the Sky Dweller. I also think that it's possible that the Air King gets discontinued or completely overhauled as well, but it's another one of those things that I could see happening, but it's not something that I would totally count on. So what is the possibility that Rolex could release an entirely new model? And if they did, what would it be? I've seen people speculate on this kind of thing in the past a lot, and honestly, I don't think that it's very likely at all. The Sky Dweller, that was released in 2012, and if I'm not mistaken, I think that was the first completely new design that they had put out in over 20 years or something. Rolex moves really slow, even when they do their incremental upgrades to existing watch models, so to see something completely new at this point doesn't seem very likely at all. Whatever Rolex has in store for us this coming September, one thing is certain, a lot of us have been anticipating this for a while. Rolex is one of the last major brands to release any new products this year, and being as that is the case, my expectations might be a little bit higher than they probably should be. But I have to think that Rolex doesn't want to appear like the grand finale that winds up being a complete letdown. They must know the optics of the situation, that they are setting themselves up to be presented like they're saving the best for last. However, I'm at least a little bit skeptical that we'll see anything truly inspiring or transformative, or even anything highly anticipated given the state of things. All right, guys, that'll wrap this one up for today. As always, thanks for tuning in and watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and of course, turn on notifications so you don't miss any future episodes. And of course, leave me a comment telling me what you expect Rolex to release this year. I'd like to know. Finally, don't forget to check the description of this video for a list of ways that you can help me out and support what I'm doing here on YouTube. The links to my social media pages are there, and if you'd like to help me out financially, there's my Patreon account link, there's my Amazon affiliate link, and of course my PayPal donation link. Creating content for you guys has been my full-time gig for the past couple of years, and I really appreciate all the support that I've gotten from you guys through Patreon, PayPal, and of course, using that Amazon affiliate link, which does give me a small commission every time you guys decide to buy something that I reviewed, or anything else for that matter. So thanks again for the help. Now with that said, I guess I'm gonna wrap this one up for today, so I'll go ahead, I'll sign off and say bye now.